In this video, I'm going to show how I set up Grafana to show dashboards for P21. The nice thing about Grafana is it's open source, it's free, it's fairly powerful, and it can gather data from multiple data sources if you want to get it from another database besides your P21 database. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just open up a browser, and we're going to go to grafana.com. Once there, we don't need to create a login. We're going to be running this all locally. So we're going to click on the Get Started button, and then it's going to default to this cloud, but we're going to click Self-Managed. After we do that, we're going to go to Download Grafana, and I'm going to just download the latest version. I've never had issues with the different versions. They sometimes change how they display, but every version has worked fine. I'm going to select Windows down below here, and I'm not going to use the installer. I'm going to use the zip file. So I'm going to allow that to download. Once that's downloaded, I'm going to just open the folder I downloaded it in, and I'm going to open the zip file, and I'm going to open the Grafana folder. And once I'm in here, I'm going to take all this information and put it into a folder somewhere on my computer. I'm going to just create one on my desktop called Grafana. You could put this on your root drive, or you could put this on a server. I'm just going to drag everything from here into the folder. Okay, once that finishes extracting, we're done with this zip file. So you can go ahead and close that and delete it if you'd like. Inside this Grafana folder, there's a bin directory, and inside the bin directory, there's this Grafana server. That's going to be the executable that we need to run so that Grafana is running on this computer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on it, drag it to my desktop, let go, and hit Create Shortcut here. And then I'm just going to rename this to Grafana. What that allows me to do is just have a shortcut on my desktop to run it. Again, if this was on a server, you could set a server up so that it runs this as a service or automatically runs Grafana when the server starts. When I try to run it, Windows tries to tell me that this is an unrecognized app. You need to click More Information and click Run Anyway. Once you do that, it's going to run this little DOS box and do a whole bunch of stuff, and it may pop up this firewall. And I'm just going to click Allow Access. And now Grafana is running on your local computer. So to access it, we need to go to an internet browser. So I'm just going to open up a new browser. And what we're going to do is we're going to type in localhost :3000. And as you can see, Grafana is running. I'm accessing it, and you just need to have this little DOS box running. This can be minimized. Okay, once we're here, we're going to log in as the admin. And the default username and password for admin is admin and admin. Okay, once we're logged in, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to this gear icon. We're going to go down to data sources. We're going to click Add Data Source. We're going to scroll down to Microsoft SQL Server, select that. In the name, I'm just going to call this P21 Live, and then I'm going to populate my database information here. Okay, once I put my database information in, I'm going to click Save and Test, and if I've done everything correctly, it will say Database Connection OK. So I'm just going to click back. So you can see that we have our data source here, and now we're ready to create a dashboard. Dashboards are fairly simple. There's this plus button. You can click on a dashboard, and we're going to just do an empty panel. And then down here, the way Grafana was written is it really is written for time-stamped logs. I have used it that way, but a lot of times I just want to run a query and see a table or a single number. And so I'll just show you a quick query here. So if we just, we have our data sources P21 live, format as, instead of time series, we're going to say a table. And then we're going to get rid of this query here. And then I'm just going to put in a query of my own. Okay, I've added a query here. This is basically showing me inventory that is located in a bin called no bin that has inventory and is not allocated. So our warehouse uses this so that we can find locations for these items. If you look up top here, it's giving me a preview, and this says data does not have a time field. That is because if you look up in the top right here, it says time series. And since this is just a table of information without timestamps, it's not going to work. But if you click this down arrow, you can see that we have pie charts and bar gauges and bar charts and stats. In this case, I'm going to just select table. As you can see, my information here is populated. You can format these fields how you like. I'm not going to go into that, but basically over here on the right, there's panel titles. You can name this if you want. So no bin needs location. And you can do all sorts of formatting stuff, including formatting field names and field sizes and everything else. If I click back, you can see here's the table. I can format it however I want. Real quick, I'm going to show you one of the other panels that I use a lot. So if I click on up here on the top, if I click on the add panel, I'm just going to click an empty panel again. And I'm going to change this from time series to table. And I'm going to just put a query in here that is going to correspond to the table I just added. So if I look at this table view, you can see I have one number because I'm basically just counting the number of records in this SQL query. So I have 29 here, but what I'm going to use instead is I'm going to use a stat. So you can see this is just a big number. I'm going to type in no bin needs location. And there's this graph mode, if you look right here, and I can put a graph down here at the bottom. If there was some type of historic data I wanted to display, I just want a single number, so I'm going to hit none. That just makes that number bigger in this. And down here, under thresholds, I can put a threshold. I can actually add 3, or more than 3. But if I wanted to, I could say if this is above 10, then I want it to be yellow. If it's above 20, I want it to be red. So under 10, it's green. When it hits 10, it's yellow. Above 20, it's red. And then if I just hit apply, you can see now I have this little panel here that corresponds to this table on the left. Just real quick, I'm going to show you, I have you can add these to a library panel. So if you click on this little arrow and click more, you can hit create library panel and then just hit create library panel. Now, when you're in any dashboard, and you can create as many dashboards as you would like, when you click on this add panel, you can click add panel from the library panel, and I can select this. And as you can see, here's a duplicate of that panel. what this allows me to do is anytime I edit one of these, it edits that panel across the entire Grafana landscape. And what I have is I'm going to bring it up and show you. I have a panel that I call the P21 heartbeat. And here's what it looks like. And for me, this is just all sorts of information on everything you can think of. We use P10 on our items, and I want to know if that's not matching my moving average cost, or if my average cost is greater than 50% of my replacement cost. I have warehouse stuff in here. I've got items assigned to wrong bin, expired contracts, pages with incorrect effective dates. Any issues we ran into, I usually create a panel with that information. So an example here, items with incorrect GL codes. There's 2 items here that need to be fixed. Someone obviously put the item in incorrectly. So this allows me to go and look at the entire system, and everything in red is something that I probably need to go take a look at and deal with. So that's how I use Grafana. I do have some of these that are more fancy, that have charts and graphs and pie charts and look a little prettier. You can look at the Grafana website and see all sorts of examples of that. The next thing I'm going to do is show you how to import a page. Okay, this is on the Worldwide User Group Forum. This is a post I made where I had created a panel that shows GL balances and their associated reports, where I could go on a daily basis or periodic basis and just make sure everything is matching. So down below here, I actually pasted the JSON. So we're just going to highlight this whole code section, top to bottom, copy it. I'm going to save this dashboard we were working on, call it test, and then I'm going to go to an import. And then there's this import via panel JSON. So I'm going to click on this and hit paste, click load. And once you do that, it's going to come up with a name. I already have done this one time, so it's giving me an error, so I'm just going to change this to new. But it will pop a name up here. The folder, we only have one. Don't worry about this unique identifier. You can't change it if you want, but I'll just click on import. Once we do that, it brings all the panels into a new dashboard. As you can see, it's not displaying any data. And the reason why that is if you click on the down arrow or on any of these panels and go to edit, it says data source P21_live not found. That's because when I created this new data source in this new Grafana, I called it P21 space live. And so by just clicking this down arrow and clicking the new data source, you can see it instantly pops that information in there. So I'm going to go through and fix all these real quick. The other thing you could do if you didn't want to manually change all these is you could take the JSON and do a find and replace and find everything that is the P21_live and change it to whatever your data source name is. Okay, as you can see, I've changed all the data sources, so now I have all the information showing. The other thing that you'll need to do is, as you can see, I've blurred out most of the information here, but up at the top here you can see rebates open, warehouse 10, rebates open, warehouse 20. Obviously, your GL account numbers and your warehouse numbers are going to be different. For example, my AR is in 2 different accounts. And so I've added both accounts here. I'm just going to pull up the SQL query here. And as you can see, I have a where, and then I've got between this account and this account. I also have put these year for period, and that's based on these accounting periods up here. That may not be necessary, but in theory, I could go back in time and I could change this accounting period so it only goes up to a certain accounting period. But usually I just leave this to the end of the year because we're not doing accounting in the future. It's all pretty much real time, and I want all those GL accounts to match as of right now. Next thing that you'll need to do after you've created your dashboards is you'll need to go create users. So under configuration and users, you can click that here. I'm going to hit save this dashboard. And you can just add users. It's fairly straightforward. You just click invite, type their username, and you can give them view, editor, or admin, and hit submit. The other thing that I like to do is we usually create a different organization that we give access to where you don't have to log in. And this is where I put a lot of my dashboards for my warehouse so that they don't have to log in every time they go to the dashboard. We display some of these up on TVs. And to do that, it's a setting in Grafana. You can probably Google it and figure it out. But if you do need help figuring that out, I'd be happy to post a video or do a post explaining how to create an organization where you don't have to log in and you can go directly to a panel and view it. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, let me know. One other thing I wanted to mention is that Grafana, how we installed it in this folder, is completely portable. And so once you get it up and running how you want, if you wanted to possibly put it on a server where multiple users can access it, or just a computer that sits in the corner that runs Grafana all the time, you can do that. You just would copy this Grafana folder to wherever you would want it. And then once you run it, all of the information is stored in these folders here. So it's a completely portable install.